Right, and so people don't want that disgrace to be bestowed upon their family, so divorces just haven't occurred. But now, as the economy has boomed, the rigid boundaries governing traditional Indian life are beginning to fail, especially among the urban middle class. Now, this is not rocket science or something that new, but the article says something very significant here. It says, what is changing is the acceptance of divorce in these circles. In other words, where it used to be truly taboo and people hid it, didn't want to talk about it, these days families are feeling that there isn't really a dishonor to the whole thing if, for example, their daughter was being mistreated in the marriage and exited, or if she made a choice out of many of the reasons that we choose here. It's no longer frowned upon. It's no longer taboo. People are beginning to accept it and just move on from it, which I think is healthy. Hindus, who form nearly 80% of the country's population, can seek divorce for these acceptable reasons: adultery, insanity, abuse, impotence, desertion, or the uniquely Indian grounds that their spouse is a leper or renounced the world to enter a religious order, which interesting stuff. But the whole point here is that India is having to change its laws, change its mindset, and that change is occurring with a growing middle class.
But you know, one of the things that I'm glad to see changed used to be that if you get a divorce, or if you get used to be if you get a divorce or if you become a widow, your own family would not accept it.
Right.
But that has changed now.
That is changing.
Now I think the families say, okay, you come on back. If it didn't work out, it's okay. You come on back, which is the greatest support anyone needs in their life.
I agree.
Men or women.
I agree. And I think it has been a little bit easier for men, but women are starting to make their voices heard, although the statistics just don't compare to the U.S. The U.S., it's 1 in every 2 marriages will fail. In India, it's 1 out of 100. Folks, a few stories about India coming from India that I thought I would mention. First, the 2011 Pulitzer Prize, the winners list was announced, and among them was Siddhartha Mukherjee of The Scribner. He won for The Emperor of All Maladies, a biography of cancer. He's a journalist, and he's got the top honors in his area. Ravi Shankar, folks. Now, here's a name that we all know, back from the Woodstock days in 1960. Yes. Well, think about that, folks. 1960s was about 50 years ago. Ravi Shankar is still alive and kicking and doing quite well for himself. At 91, he plans to tour the country and perform musically across the whole nation.
That's amazing. 91 touring the country, coming
playing
to the Kennedy
sitar,
Center.
Which is amazing. He'll be here in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center next month. But folks, he is a living legend, a living icon, and he was honored at the Indian Classical Music and Dance Festival, which was held in the Fine Arts Academy of San Diego. And another story out of India. You know, we always think of India as the largest democracy. That's the one thing we share with the U.S. But India still has Maharajas in certain states, certainly from my home state of Rajasthan, which has always been...
Do they still administer their
kingdom?
They
do. They're not nearly the kind of influence they used to have. There were stories back in the 70s of a whole lot of gold that was stored in the palaces and so forth. And during the Indira Gandhi days, there was a big controversy because she took all the gold from these Maharajas and these dynasties. But the Brigadier Savai Bhavani Singh, 79, actually died this past Saturday in New Delhi Hospital. He suffered from high blood pressure and lung infection. But unlike a lot of dictators or kings, he was very well loved. He was a kind and generous man. This is a very sad occasion for the people of Rajasthan. So when you think about all of the turmoil that's happening in other places across the world, here is a leader who was loved, who was respected and revered, and India is going to miss him.
But those were the palaces that became tourist attraction.
They still are.
Those are the palaces where you go in, a room costs you $700 a night.
And at first that seems objectionable, but then you realize in that process they're preserving these icons and at least taking care of them. And I'm happy to see that India is coming forth to honor him for the life that he's lived. And last but not least, folks, I wanted to send a quick shout out to my cousin who lives in Australia. He sent me this fabulous shirt with original Aborigine art on it. And more than anything, you know, he has become an avid fan of this show, and he watches There's actually a community of Indians now who actually watch this show all the way in Australia. So not only is there some national folks now, I can say we're global. How about that?
We certainly are. You know, we are actually in 35 million homes. But folks, remember, we are on most of PBS stations. But PBS stations, there's no longer just one. You know, they have digitized versions of it, so they're like 4 television stations. You need to look out for us on the 4 television stations that each PBS station has. So, folks, we hope you're watching us. In the meantime, this is an Easter weekend. We sincerely want to wish you a very happy Easter, fantastic weather, and if you're going to visit Washington, D.C., what a week to come to. Namaste.
Namaste.